Boy, oh boy, we got some interesting things happening, my friends. This is Tony. Hope you're all doing well. We got some rather curious things going on with AI. We have also something going on with this whole No Kings protest. We'll get into who funded it. We got Joe Rogan talking about it. On the AI, we got Mark Zuckerberg. And we're going to get into also something that I discovered. I think I figured out why our society is so screwed up. Okay? And it isn't what everyone thinks it is. Okay? It's something of a little crack that started with the church that caused this massive rift that you see that just keeps getting wider and wider to now the point where people are saying, are we going to even have a country in a couple years? I'm going to get into what it actually was in this video and how to solve it, even though I kind of feel like it's too late. It's like, hey, I got the solution, but like, dude, your whole leg's already cancer at this point. I don't know if it's a good idea. We should just cut it off at this point. You know what I mean? Yeah, it kind of feels like that, right? Obviously, that was a metaphor, but my point is that we got some big stuff to get into in this video. We got the money behind all these things. I like how, let me just play this one from John Cusack here. You know, the actor John Cusack, he was at the No Kings protest, and he's talking about how we were founded on No Kings. Check this out. Let me just play this.
The whole country was founded on No Kings.
This is your city. What do you see happening to your city right now?
Everyone knows the score, right? The authoritarians divide and conquer, and they create an other, and then they pick on it, and then pick on the person and harass them, jail them, and that's all used as a distraction so they can steal as much as they can, maintain.
They think we're not smart enough to see this, my friends. They want us to think that we're playing checkers when actually they're playing chess. And so he says here, well, look, see, there's the king. It's their president. He's like trying to be an authoritarian. When in reality, when you go look behind the curtain, you discover that they're the ones funding all this. All the kings in the corporate world are funding, of course, this protest. You got Arabella, 79 million. Warren Buffett, 16 million. Ford, 51 million. And actually, I think Ford would be turning over in his grave if he saw this, because if you knew what his actual opinions were on things, he wouldn't be for this. Then you got, of course, all these other groups, upwards of 300 million spent on this whole thing. I'm wondering if these guys are the real kings in secret behind the scenes playing chess, telling us, oh, look, it's just right there. There's the devil. He's got horns and a red skin. That's him. Actually, no, it's just that the devil's not that dumb, dude. He's not going to walk around and say, hey, look, hey, I'm right here. You know, of course he's not going to do that. He's trying to deceive you, which, of course, is what they're trying to do, right? So we have all these different actors and actresses coming out. There's actually a lot of them. Check this out. There's a million of them. At this No Kings protest, you got Spike Lee, you got Mark Ruffalo, played Incredible Hulk, you got Ben Stiller. I mean, goodness gracious. Jimmy Kimmel, Robert De Niro, not really a surprise there. John Cusack, which we just listened to, Ice-T, and a ton of others. As you can see on this list, obviously, it seems to be all these rich people are behind it. All these rich people are attending it. And they're the ones saying that our president's the king. Kind of interesting. We have our president responding to this as well. Let me play that. If I can find it. Where did it go? It's around here somewhere. Here it is.
Over the weekend, the No Kings protest.
I think it's a joke. I looked at the people. They're not representative of this country. And I looked at all the brand new signs paid for, I guess it was paid for by Soros and other radical left lunatics. It looks like it was. We're checking it out. The demonstration.
He was talking about there's a sign that was massive that looked like someone put a lot of money into it. So obviously some of the props look like they were created for these protesters.
We're very small, very ineffective. and the people who were whacked out. When you look at those people, those are not representative of the people of our country.
Of course, he put out a tweet showing massive loads of turds falling on these protests. He actually put out where he's flying a jet that said "No Kings" on the side, and then he did this. I don't know if you guys saw that or not, but it's pretty funny. We had, of course, Hasan Piker there, and now apparently Hasan Piker went completely viral. Everyone's talking about his dog now. He was saying it was the spawn of Satan. The way he was talking here is just disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Check this out.
That motherfucker right there. Okay, let me tell you something. That fucking, this right here, this fucking demon, okay, who's sleeping like a goddamn baby currently, that thing right there was the spawn of Satan.
Oh my
Do you
goodness.
understand me? When I'm
The way he's talking about his dog is absolutely insane. How can you even have an ounce of love for the dog talking like that? That's just so crazy how he's talking. The dog is sleeping, and he says it's a demon and a spawn of Satan.
telling you that was the spawn of Satan. I'm telling you, like, I was sick.
What? This guy's crazy. Now he's went completely and utterly viral. People are reenacting what he did to his dog, like on streams. They're going to airports doing it for fun, like showing the story of what he did to his dog with the shock collar. Now we have even his own fans are turning on him. And he said it's gotten so viral, they've actually made game mods now. You can actually get game mods playing his dog on various video games now.
Someone made an ASMR video about Kaige. Bro, there's like a Roblox mod or something too. It did go triple platinum for sure.
Roblox. So you can actually go play Roblox and play his dog. It's went so viral, everyone's talking about it. It's just insane. Of course, you got that story. You have also, I think George Lucas is trying to tell us something. I talked about this on my other channel. Right exactly when No Kings started, he came out and said something against Disney on the exact same day. I kind of feel like it's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence because he almost never says anything. Like in the last 13 years, ever since he sold his Star Wars to Disney, he's only talked like 3 times and said something that was even remotely bad about Disney. And he came out exactly on this No Kings Day saying it. Disney took it over and they gave it their vision. That's what happens. He's obviously upset about this. George Lucas says he moved past his instinct to manage Star Wars 13 years after selling up. He says this exactly on the day of No Kings, which of course No Kings is sort of a woke thing, and Disney is completely woke. We've seen how well they've done in the box office of recent, or actually how terrible they've done with flops after flops.
Snow White flopped, Elio flopped, Captain African American flopped, Thunderbolts flopped, and the Fantastic Four missteps flopped. But there is still hope.
So of course, obviously they've had billions and billions of dollars of losses. You get that idea. We're going to get into this whole thing with Ali Beth Stuckey over on Jubilee. I want to talk about that in a minute here. And I also want to get into this whole thing about AI. And also maybe I'll get into, I'll do it probably in another video. I'm going to get into that 3-eye atlas in another video because I did one over my main channel, but we found something else. Just insane. A ton of connections to other things I've been talking about. The timing and everything. We'll get into all of that in another video. But we're going to get into, like I said, this AI thing, a really weird thing I discovered with AI. And we're going to get into this Ali Beth Stuckey. I guess it was on Jubilee. She was against 20 liberal Christians. And I wanted to point out something that Wes Huff was saying, and she was saying that they're not giving correct context to. And I think it'll actually be good because I think it's what's causing our entire society to fall apart. We'll get into that next. But first, I got to mention Food Supply, 25-year shelf life. Link is in the description. 4 months worth for $6.97. You could definitely want to get that if you have not already. Link is in the description. You see all the wonderful things happening around us. This book here, The Lost Ways, how your great-great-grandfather lived without electricity, how to build a cellar, and do all those things like you might need to know how to do, considering the fact that half the internet just went down yesterday night and has been down and still is down in parts of it. Half the internet went down last night, and they're still trying to get the rest of it up. They finally identified what the problem was. It took them like 9 hours to figure out why half the internet was down. Okay? 9 hours. They figured it out. It was Amazon. Amazon's what caused the problem. So it took them literally 9 hours to figure it out. Still significant errors for some services after outage, Amazon says, but underlying problem fixed. Like half the websites went down. This is what happens when you have a monopoly. Okay? And we got this weird, massive bubble monopoly with AI, and it's going to completely blow. And I think also this whole thing about in 5 years you're not going to have a job is BS. I'll get into that as well. But like I said, let's just get into, go check out all those links below. Let's get into this Ali Beth Stuckey a little bit. You know, let me just do the AI real quick, and then I'll get into the Ali Beth Stuckey, because I think this is the real serious reason why our society's falling apart. And it's like the thing you would never think would cause it. Okay? I think I figured it out. But everyone thinks I'm crazy. Well, at least they used to think I'm crazy. Now they'll probably think I'm right. But usually whenever I come out with something, I figure something out, it like takes like 5 years for people to catch up. Like, oh, wait, you're crazy, dude. Oh, actually, you were right the whole time. Let's just get into this AI real quick, and then we'll get over to that. So with this AI, we have Mark Zuckerberg here talking about how they're investing in AI. Check this out. And I'm going to get into this whole thing of why it's going to it's going to be like an internet, it's going to be a massive market bubble. It's going to just blow up. It's going to be crazy.
I mean, didn't you just tell Trump you were going to spend like $600 billion? I mean,
I did. Yeah. Through 2028, which is,
that's a lot of money.
It is. And if we end up misspending a couple of $100 billion, I think that is going to be very unfortunate, obviously. But what I'd say is I actually think the risk is higher on the other side. If you build too slowly, and then super intelligence is possible in 3 years, but you built it out assuming it would be there in 5 years, then you're just out of position on what I think.
Okay, so just imagine how insane this is. All these companies with no guardrails, because they don't care, are going full forward, full tilt, building super intelligence, which could essentially take over and be Skynet like in the movie Terminator, or like the Matrix and turn us into batteries. They're all going full force ahead. They don't even care because they want to make sure they're the company on top of it, right? That's what's going on. And that's like only a fraction of it. Okay, so the other part is this whole thing's a complete bubble because a lot of this AI is hype. Okay, I mentioned this Taco Bell example. They had AI in Taco Bell, and they got rid of it because it completely crashed because people were messing with it. They would order 20,000 drinks and it would crash it. You know, they would just do funny jokes to it and screw it all up. I think a lot of AI is going to end up being underwhelming. I think only a few of them are going to really turn out to be something, and it's going to be extremely dangerous because it might try to take over the world. I mean, it sounds crazy, but we already have examples of this. One tried to blackmail a guy when they tried to shut it off. Another tried to actually kill a guy when they tried to shut it off. Those are two recent stories, literal stories, where they literally tried to, an AI, knowing it's going to get shut off, tried to, of course, kill a dude. You might think if you get the too smart of an AI going, it might not be a good thing. But here's a guy talking about why this whole thing is going to blow up and become a massive market bubble.
Or you're just investing in companies so that they can buy NVIDIA chips. It just seems messy. It seems like bubble mechanics to me, you guys. Though I am.
So he's talking about like a company invests in this company and then that company turns around and buys something. She'll explain it better. Check this out.
Greed. At the center of all of this is OpenAI. They're doing what is known as circular deals. Let me break it down. A company invests in OpenAI, then OpenAI immediately uses that exact money to buy products.
So you see the circular thing going on here? It's also they're heavily in debt too.
From the same company that just invested in them. What we have to keep in mind throughout this entire video is OpenAI is not profitable. They're hemorrhaging money set to burn through $115 billion through 2020.
So, okay, check this out. So this company, OpenAI, which is trying to build the super intelligence, which will basically make the Matrix or Terminator, is completely in debt and has like some weird scheme where they're like get investors to invest in them and then they go and buy their product from like NVIDIA or chips or something. Then on top of that, they're also siphoning off power from you locally in some cities. And your bill is through the roof for your energy bill because you're actually essentially paying a little fraction of their costs to run their energy guzzling AI that's going to take your job. This is literally what's going on. So that's how messed up it is. So they're saying that this thing is like 10 times bigger than the internet.com bubble. It's going to completely destroy the market. On top of that, they might accidentally make the wrong thing and it ends up being the Matrix or something. So it's not a good scenario either way. We need God to stop this whole thing, as the way I look at it. But anyway, you get the whole idea. So there's that. And I wanted to get over into this other big story. Now, it doesn't seem at all related whatsoever. It's about the Bible. Okay, but I actually think because I do a lot of analysis. I've been doing that for many years here on YouTube. I've been on here for 15 years. And one of my theories early on was that the reason why our world's so screwed up is because the church is screwed up. And the church thinks it's not screwed up. It's just like the time of Jesus. 2,000 years ago, the religious leaders thought they knew everything. We have all the doctrine completely right. We're perfect. We're awesome. Jesus comes along and completely contradicts them and calls them whitewashed tombs and says they're all hypocrites and straight at a gnat swallow a camel. And they also are blind guides. He would say all these things. He even said that tax collectors and ladies of the night will be in heaven before the religious leaders. He literally said this. There's actually a verse, I could show it, but I'm sure some of you have heard of it. Go look it up. Just type it into AI or Google and it'll tell you. He literally said this. People today, for some reason, still believe that the ministers are completely good, on track, know everything what they're talking about, not misrepresenting the Bible whatsoever. This is why I think our society is so screwed up. The reason why you have this massive divide like this is because I think the devil created it. And the church is in on it, and they don't even know it. Okay? They're in on it. And one of these topics, again, this is a tricky topic. I'm not for, okay, let me just set the stage because I know how some people may not take this the right way. I'm not for the whole rainbow. I'm not for all the stuff that they peddle. I'm not for the agenda of it. I'm not for the parades or all the weird stuff involved in it, how they try to tell you how to live your life as a person who's not, I guess you would say, straight, okay? Like, for example, my wife's nanny, when she was growing up, was a gay dude. But this gay dude never had a boyfriend. He doesn't act weird. He doesn't have pink hair. He doesn't do weird stuff. Doesn't go to parades or any of that stuff. He's just a normal guy, goes to church, doesn't like girls. Okay, that's what he is. He literally is that. In the Bible, these were called eunuchs. Okay, they were called natural-born eunuchs. They don't like women. They're not going to marry a woman. So this whole idea, you remember when they had these conversion, of course, therapy things? And how that completely blew up in their faces because it ended up not working. Even the guy running it was gay at one time, then he stopped being gay, and then he became gay again, right? Because the reason why it didn't work is because they never were designed to like women. There's a small fraction of society that are eunuchs. They're not supposed to marry. Okay, they're made that way. This is literally what Jesus said. They're natural-born eunuchs. Yeah, here it is. I found it here. So here's the passage, Matthew 19, 10-12. Those that are born that way, natural-born eunuchs, those made eunuchs by others, etc., etc. So eunuch is someone who doesn't marry. And also I found something else I never even saw. And I've done tons of research into this topic, and I never saw this before, and I thought it was really amazing. So over here in the Hebrew, look at this. Word saris. Eunuch, officer, court official, Pharaoh's officer, unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's, Egypt to Potiphar, officer, Pharaoh's, the captain. You see all this here? This word officer is literally referring to a eunuch. A eunuch doesn't marry. Okay? Bought and Potiphar, officer of Pharaoh, the captain. So with two officials, the chief, two of his officers against the chief, it will use the word officer and official, and you're thinking of like some government official, and it's literally talking about a eunuch. Working in the court system, working in the king or royal system, because they're often employed by the king because they would protect harems. They were known to be wise as diplomatic and stuff like that. They were commonly used in these type of settings because in a harem, they want to protect all the women. They don't want a guy who actually likes women to protect them, but they want a guy. They want a guy, but not a guy. You know what I mean? A guy that don't like women. That's what they want to protect the women. Makes perfect sense, right? So this is what they usually were employed to do. And in the scriptures, it's hidden. They use the word officer, court official, eunuch. They don't ever tell you, hey, this might be a gay dude that's actually working to protect women because they don't like women. You see what I mean? Now, getting over to this video, this is Wes Huff's channel where he's playing this clip of Allie Beth Stuckey going against liberal Christians, and they're talking about this exact topic. Check this out.
Arsen kotai, do you know the earliest usage of it?
I don't.
It was actually used as economic exploitation of men. Because back then, the only homosexual relationships you had, keep in mind, the word homosexual came in the 1860s.
Yes, which is exactly why it wasn't added to scripture until 1946.
So, okay, he said something rather interesting that almost no Christians know about this word, which is usually translated homosexual in the Bible. He's talking about this term here, arsenikoi, that you see in 1 Corinthians 6:9, for example. That's one Bible passage that uses it. And it's talking about they will not inherit the kingdom of God. Now, a lot of them say it's a male with a male. Okay, and the word actually, and you'll see Wes Huff say it in a minute here, the word is actually comes from two words that mean male better. Now, when you hear that, you just assume, okay, male in a bed with another, male. It sounds very obvious. That must be what it is. But like if I say to you butterfly, and it's two words, butter and fly, is it flies and butter? You see what I mean? It's like the same idea. This word arsenikoi here was used in the Sibylline Oracles. I've talked about the Sibylline Oracles here on this channel before. Very, very well-known text used among early Christians, which no Christians here today even know about, that is prophetic, that even John in Revelation quoted from it. There's actually multiple quotes in the New Testament from the Sibylline Oracles. The Sibylline Oracles use this word, arsenikoites here, to refer to what this man just said, where it was like essentially a man exploiting another person. Okay? And actually the King James had it right. What's interesting is Wes Huff doesn't use the King James here either. I find that interesting. Abusers of themselves with mankind is what the King James says, which is actually very accurate. This is the only version actually today that's pretty much accurate. They've taken the phrase abusers of themselves with mankind, or abusers of men that abuse, and changed it to homosexual in the New Testament. I find that very interesting. Now, why am I saying all this? I think that we should be promoting family. I think we should be promoting people getting married to, of course, the opposite sex. But my point is that some people are born, a small percentage, maybe 1%, I don't know, that don't have any interest in the opposite sex. And we shouldn't force them to have interest. And that they had certain occupations in the Bible, but it's been hidden. They were officers in the court. I just showed you that. Why is it nobody knows this? Why is it that they hide what these people were in the Old Testament, in the Bible? During the Bible times, what did gays do? They were officers in the court. They would protect harems. They would sometimes be soldiers protecting women because, of course, they have no interest in women in a certain fashion that most men have interest. So they're the perfect candidate to protect a harem. They're also known to be more intelligent in some respects when it comes to diplomatic things or working in the court, or they tend to be more artistic. So you will see them working in royal palaces and things like that. They were called officers of the court often. But no one knows this. In the modern day, no one knows about this. I find that very interesting. Why? This is what I think caused this rift in our society and split it like this. Because the church says you have no place here. You have no place. You never existed. What is this weird stuff? Well, actually, they did exist. There's an agenda pushing it a weird direction. See what I mean? These people do exist, but they're being molded and modified to go a one direction that the world's telling them to go, or the devil's telling them to go. And then the church is saying you never were supposed to exist, and that you're supposed to be married to the opposite sex. You see what I mean? So this was the devil's doing. Get this hidden in the scriptures, then have the church fight the people that actually do exist. And I think, and this is a strategy I've seen the devil use before that no one seems to know. So the devil likes to pit your nature that God created against his word. It's a lose-lose situation. God's word contradicts what you were actually created to do. And when I say that, I mean, for example, I'm not referring to the agenda behind the rainbow. That's not what I'm referring to. But rather, for example, if you like having sex with your wife, guess what? In the church, they actually said it was a sin. In the Latin School of Theology from the 4th century, and it extended for about 1,000 years like that, where they kept saying, like a minister couldn't have sex before the night before he did a sermon. They would say priests can no longer marry. That happened in 1139. Catholic priests no longer can marry. Before they used to get married. This was purposely put in the scripture or put in our doctrine by the devil. The church accepted it. And this is what caused a rift in society that caused this massive cavern we see in our society right now. This is where it started.
Yeah, not because the act was not described in scripture.
Yeah, so arsenokoitai has been used for economic exploitation in its earliest usage. And above that, malakoi was used for effeminate men that were cash.
So he's right about exploitation. And it's more than, the way I describe it, you have power over another person and you're abusing that person. That's basically what it meant. Arsenikoi there means you're in a higher position and you're abusing someone below you. That could be a lot of different things. A lot of different things. That could be like you have a servant that you mistreat. That could be you're higher up at a company and you mistreat someone below you. It could mean a lot of things. It could mean a ton of different things. It could mean a lot worse things too, as you can imagine. Things that are forced, you know what I mean? I'm not going to say the words, but I think you know what I'm talking. Just you can think of it if you think about it for a little bit. Now I'm not going to show all this Jubilee show because I've heard Jubilee does copyrights like crazy, and I'm not going to play a minute of this and find out they copyright strike this. So I'll play like I played. I don't know how much there. Hopefully it's not very much. I'm going to play Wes Huff's response to this. Check this out.
So what Allie did here is exactly what I think she should have done in her predicament. She knew her limitations and she knew her strengths. She knows she's not very well versed enough in Greek to take on the issue of what arsenokoitai does or doesn't mean, and she sticks to the issue at hand. This is excellent dialogue and debate strategy on display right here. Too often, what I find is that people can't read Greek and Hebrew themselves, and so when those they're talking with bring up the terms in those languages, whether that's on the issue in regards to something like this with homosexuality in the Bible, or say a Jehovah's Witness shows up at your door and he's bringing up John 1:1 and the grammar and the syntax.
So I wanted to mention something. So he is right. She did a good job by pivoting because she didn't know how to deal with what he said. And what he said actually was pretty accurate in one respect. I didn't play the whole clip, but just that one little piece I mentioned there was pretty accurate. Although I believe it's pretty accurate. It basically means exploitation. Okay. And it was used in other texts. Now, what Wes Huff does here is he says that he kind of builds this case that theologians, people like him, he's an expert in Greek and linguistics, right? But the problem is he's an expert in the church, meaning he was taught in a seminary. He was not taught in a secular college. And what I've pointed out for over a decade here on YouTube is that if you go to a secular Greek scholar rather than a Christian Greek scholar, you will get a different answer. And this is what people won't deal with. I wonder if Wes Huff will deal with this, that if you go to a secular Greek scholar, for example, Dr. Ann Nyland, she is the one who translated the Bible, not back in 2007, I think it was. And so she is actually a classical Greek scholar. Her father was a classical Greek scholar. I think her grandfather was one as well. She's from Australia. She translated the New Testament, decided, okay, look, I'm going to use my skill set from a secular education to translate the scriptures, because she thought, she knew that the theological seminaries put a spin on the words. So they'll actually have a different definition for a word in a secular setting versus a Christian setting. This is what I pointed out 15 years ago on my channel, that this is an issue. Australian ancient language scholar, Dr. Anne Nyland, known for her work in biblical texts and ancient writings. Again, Westhoff's also known to be a scholar, works in the same exact field, except for his doctrine is from a seminary. Allie Beth Stuckey, she's also of the same theological slant as Westhoff. She's a Calvinist. Okay, they're Calvinists. They follow John Calvin, although they don't really follow him fully. They do follow John Calvin, because if you read his writings, they don't actually it doesn't relate to what we call Calvinism today, per se. My point is, though, is the secular guys will tell you what this word means. And you can see it by simply looking at the text. There's a text called the Sibylline Oracles. I've talked about it, like I said before. See if I could find it here on the screen. Goodness gracious, can we just pull it up? Okay, 1 second here. What am I doing wrong? Oracles. There we go. I don't know why I couldn't pull it up. I thought it was 2 L's. That's what it was. Okay, so when an ancient Christian writers after Paul employ the term, they also do not define it. Instead, they either simply cite Paul's list of wrongdoers, embedded arsenokoitai, in a different list. Again, I'm not a Greek scholar, but I can see patterns, and I can see when a secular scholar disagrees with a Christian scholar. Okay, the Sibylline Oracles, for instance, use arsenokoitis in a warning against stealing seeds, perhaps building on a Levitical concern for preserving male sperm. The 2nd century Christian apologists Aristatides of Athens, on the other hand, use arsenokoites to denounce the behavior of the Greek gods. In these similar examples, the figures practiced associated with arsenokoites are treated with scorn, but the specific actions involved are not obvious. So what's going on here is, during that ancient time, they had a different word for homosexual that they would use. And this is not a normal word that they would use for that. They use this for other things. It would be used, from what I could tell in a lot of texts. I looked at a lot of different ancient Greek texts, and from what I could tell, it referred to someone in a higher position, essentially manipulating, abusing, whatever you want to call it, someone below him. That's basically what it was. The 16th century Tyndale Bible, the first to translate the term directly from Greek, employs the phrase abusers of themselves with mankind. Boom! Like I said, the King James, the William Tyndale, the very first English Bible, had it correct. When you listen to Westhoff talk about this, he will not quote the King James Bible. Why? Because it doesn't translate it that way. It doesn't translate it homosexual. That's a modern translation. That is not the original translation of it. Jesus said, beware of the scribes and the Pharisees. The scribes translate scripture. They modify terms. They add their own opinion to the text. This is why you have a different definition for the word in secular settings than you do in Christian settings, is because the Christians have added their own interpretation based on their theology to the term, rather than using the actual meaning of the word. You see what I'm getting at? This is what I was literally talking about this 15 years ago on YouTube, but everybody thought I was crazy. But if you look into this, it makes perfect sense. If you look at secular scholars, this is what they say. She is a secular scholar, and if Paul meant homosexuals, why didn't he use the common Greek word? He didn't use it. So he meant a specific form of them. Or perhaps a one that could be related, but not related. So again, if you're an abuser of others, that's very broad and can mean a lot of things. Okay, it can mean a lot of things. So it doesn't just mean specifically what they're claiming or what he's claiming in his video, although he's got 300,000 views. Anyway, this is my video. Kind of want to know what some of you guys think. Let me know in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.